With Locked On Jaguars, your daily podcast, and we thank you for allowing us to be here with you, and also for making us your first listen every single day because it's your team every day. And it seems like every day there's been news ever since Urban Meyer was initially hired as the head coach of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Well, maybe we can all get some sleep now, and maybe we won't have to wake up finding out all of these new stories because Urban Meyer is no longer the head coach of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Shad Khan had simply had enough. And it started this past weekend, of course, with reports by Tom Pelissero of all kinds of stuff that's been going on in the organization. I don't have to chronicle that stuff right now for you guys. A litany of things over and over again. Shad Khan um, came in. It seems like he mellowed things out a little bit. He met with certain members of the media, and he probably wasn't even back wherever he started from before another report came out where Josh Lambo had talked to the newspaper in Tampa, and he just basically talked about an incident he had when he was in practice, and Urban came up and kicked him in a leg that had already been injured, and told him to make his effing kicks. And apparently, Josh Lambo, a former kicker here with the Jacksonville Jaguars, told him, "Don't kick him again. Don't you ever kick me again." And the next day, Urban came up to him and said something to him about put a smile on your face. And Lambo, according to him, said that if you, and he, by the way, Rick Stroud did the interview in Tampa. I need to give him credit for that. Lambo apparently said after yeah, I'll smile if you don't kick me anymore. And Urban basically said, all right, you don't want me to kick you, fine. You don't want me to coach you this way, coach you that way. But don't ever talk to me like that again, and you'll be out of here because I'm the head ball coach. And that typifies, if you will, everything that I'd ever heard from more than one source. So I'll go back on September 12th, a source of mine, a guy in the business, okay? He's in the business of football. He has been in the business of football for a number of years on a number of different levels. And he told me, and by the way, it is not the former GM, okay? I'll just clear that up. But he told me that there were problems. There's always growing pains when someone takes over a team. And this was after the whole hiring Doyle incident, and we're going to look back at that too here on this show. This was after all of that stuff. This was after hiring and firing Doyle, and me actually asking someone in the building at training camp, must be nice now that it's all about football around here, and you got all of that rigmarole that was here before ongoing, and Coughlin's not in the building yelling at people for being in the wrong hallway. And very respected member of the media, a very respected person in Jacksonville, looked at me and said, "No, it's not better." And I was like, "Really?" And if you're not looking on YouTube, I gave the kind of the thing that the dog does when he's trying to figure stuff out. My head cocked to the side, and he said, "No, it's awful. That unless you have a whistle around your neck or you play, you're basically nothing." And I was like, "Okay, all right, I'll keep that in mind as we move forward." Then the preseason happens, and Urban starts throwing guys under the bus. Just real subtle through the media, throwing guys under the bus and doing things and saying things that were hints that he could rub the people the wrong way. But I figured when a guy comes in and takes over, in my experience, when a new guy comes in and takes over anything, there's always going to be people who are going to get their feathers ruffled a little bit. And then I got a text on September 12th from said source, my buddy. And it said, Urban might not last long. I hear he disrespects people in the building. I hear he talks to players in crazy ways. This is ugly. And I said, let me make some phone calls. I called 3 or 4 people. They said, no, we ain't heard nothing. Heard nothing. So I texted him back and I said, we might need to hold back on that one. It might not be true. He texted me back and said, when have I ever told you something like this and it wasn't true? So when we shook free, I called him on the phone and he answered the phone and he said, what's up? I said, what's going on, man? He said 2 words to me. He said, Bobby Petrino. You heard me say this on this podcast before. I don't even remember the day I said it. But you guys that have listened to this podcast have heard me say that before. That the guy told me, Bobby Petrino. And I can't repeat what I said to him, but I basically said, you BSing. And he said, I'm not. I said, really? He said, yes, it's that bad. Might take a while. So at some point, season starts. I'm still hearing stuff. I saw a player that I know through a mutual acquaintance. And the player is a current player on the team. And I said, rough start to the season, but at least y'all sticking together. And the player looked at me with a side eye, like, huh, really? And I was like, oh, okay. And in some of these situations, I don't mix business with pleasure. I don't want to be the guy that's always the media guy when you ain't supposed to be being the media guy, right? So I put it all away, and the team is losing. Team's losing. Team's losing. And someone told me, watch how they play. It's not just about talent. He says, you remember the last year's team that was 1-15? I said, yeah. He said, they were in a lot of games, and they played hard until they ran out of gas. I want you to watch how this team plays. He's going to ruin that quarterback. They got to get him out of there. Then comes the Thursday night game, doesn't get on a plane. Doesn't get on a plane, which everybody thought that was a head scratcher. I was actually in Washington, D.C. on a short vacation, sitting on my buddy's back porch, and all of a sudden, my phone went crazy. It's the video of Urban up in Ohio. I told my wife, I said, this is a problem. It's a problem for a number of reasons, but his personal life ain't my business. I've been a barber for 30 years, man. I've heard stories about arrangements that couples have and all of this stuff. Everybody's marriage ain't a monolith. Everybody's marriage is not the same. Everybody doesn't move the same way. So it is what it is. I don't get into that. So the issue I have is I saw a second video. And I said, now, wait a minute. Now watch what happens. He's going to deny the first one. And then all of a sudden, somebody's going to release that second one. I sat there and told about 4 people it was going to happen. And sure enough, in typical Urban Meyer fashion that I have grown accustomed to by watching him, there was a soft denial. And all of a sudden, I said, this ain't going to end well. Because I already knew what was coming. And then the next video came out, and then he had to give a second apology. Now, regardless of how Shad feels about Urban Meyer, now it's publicly embarrassing. And they're losing. And you heard Shad allude to this in his comments before he fired Urban. In fact, this was the comments after this past weekend where he says, he talked about the difference between losing over the first 10 years, for most of the first 10 years of his ownership, to now. The difference is you're losing because you're not just very good before. Now you're losing, and it's public, and it comes with drama. Now, that's the point where I tell you got to wait until segment 2 to hear everything from the perspective of why I do think that Shad Khan acted in a way this time that it seems like he probably never acted before. And I'll go through all of that stuff, man, and I'll do it in just a second here. On a day on Locked On Jaguars that we all think we all sort of saw coming here on a Thursday. And normally we do our crossover show, but we're going to say that for tomorrow. It's actually already recorded and in the bag. I did it with Cody Davis from Locked On Texans. But this is too much stuff here, man. I got to give it to you. Ain't nobody celebrating. Ain't nobody going all crazy. I'm just giving you the facts. He's gone. Oh, he gone. That's what we're going to call this podcast. He gone. I have more for you in just a second here on Locked On Jaguars. I want to tell you about Stat Hero, man, because nobody plays daily fantasy sports to lose. Winning feels so much better, but traditional fantasy sports are a long-term losing proposition because you never know who or what you're up against. Stat Hero is the first of its kind daily fantasy sports platform where it's you versus the house. That's the way you want it. And it's head-to-head fantasy matchups with winner take all. And here's the crazy part. Stat Hero shows you their lineups before you play, and you handpick the team you want to face one-on-one. Now, the one you're probably going to be going against this week is Matthew Stafford, along with Tom Brady and Jimmy Garoppolo. So you got 3 quarterbacks to beat. If you can find 3 that's going to do better than that, then you go for it, man. I'm telling you, Stat Hero is where you need to go. Sign up for free right now at stathero.com/lockedon and use the promo code LOCKEDON for a 100% deposit match. You heard me, and I'm going to say it again. That's stathero.com/lockedon. Use promo code LOCKEDON for a 100% match. Last time, stathero.com/lockedon, promo code LOCKEDON. Terms and conditions apply. All right, running through it, man. He gone. Urban Meyer's gone as head coach of the Jacksonville Jaguars, fired by Shad Khan, who did release a statement. I won't read it verbatim. Of course, you can find it online. We don't do play-by-play here, but I'll tell you the crux of what he said is, he said back in October, and that's where we just left off, we talked about rebuilding trust, and that hasn't happened. So Urban Meyer is gone. He's out as head coach of the Jaguars. It just got too embarrassing. It's just flat out. And in segment 3, while I'll give Shad some credit, I'm going to actually call him to task just a little bit, because there's nothing that Josh Lambo said about Urban Meyer yesterday, and we talked about with Rick Stroud in Tampa, and then here on First Coast News, he actually did an interview here in Jacksonville on our technical partner, where I'm also an analyst. These incidents were things that happened back in August and September. So, we're going to get into that. It's not as if the worst thing Urban's done in the last couple of days is deny stuff that everyone knew was true and put people in positions where they had to either lie or cover up or act like it was a need to know basis. We're going to get to it. Let's go back to October. So after October, they go on another losing streak. They get one good win versus Buffalo. And you still hear rumblings of people being unhappy. You see him not ever saying anything is his fault when this team is bad. He never does. So that's all football stuff, right? You think that. But permeating out of the locker room and the way people communicate, it seems like a bunch of folks just got tired of being blamed for how bad things were, when they were bad partly because of the atmosphere and the attitude that was going on in the locker room. I like it that on one of the recent shows too, you driving a car and a person in the passenger seat constantly telling you what to do, even sometimes reaching over and grabbing the steering wheel, and then complaining that you crash or complaining that you don't get to where you're going to in time. That's what it felt like. It felt like everyone here was being blamed for the actions of one person. Players that you would never expect started speaking out. It started with James Robinson. James Robinson, man, he's like the dude has the personality of Walter Payton. He's quiet, keeps his head down. Was having a lot of success last year, has not been as successful this year. Wasn't getting the ball. Not only was he not getting the ball, whenever he made a mistake, he seemed like he was getting punished for it. He fumbled for the first time in his life and he got punished for it. Urban was asked about it. Says, I don't micromanage that. That's not my. And see, this is where your character comes into play. Is when there were people saying, no, we heard you tell people not to put him back in the game. It is your responsibility. So now people are starting to question what are you doing? If nothing that goes wrong is your responsibility, nothing that happens, it's always somebody else. Even though it's kind of your responsibility to be over those people as well. Where's your leadership coming from? What are you doing? So when you see the results on the field, that's one thing, because that could be for a litany of reasons. But when you start seeing people not know what to do and what to say, and folks not wanting to talk about stuff and denying things, there's a direct correlation to the entire thing being off the rails. There's a difference between football and just making football decisions and football mistakes, and then just being a bad person that's causing all of these things to happen. And one by one, folks started coming out. Lies started to be told. You blame it on your running backs coach. People started leaving the organization. Not to mention that all the people, your special teams coach, all had already left. We talked about the strength and conditioning stuff. His chief of staff, Fernando Lovo, who's one of the first people that came with him. I reported 2 weeks before Lovo announced that he was coming to Florida and coming to Jacksonville. He left. It all started to unravel when you could tell guys were lifeless on the field, to go along with all of the things that everyone had been hearing. So now when this Lambo issue comes out after apparently a report by Tom Pelissero where Marvin Jones and Marvin Jones has kind of kept it cool. I'm gonna be interested to see what these players say now that Urban's gone. But Marvin Jones had kept it kind of cool and said, we talked as grown men. Well, let me tell you what that means where I come from. When you say we talked as grown men, that means yelling and screaming doesn't bother you. That means that's how you do conflict management, because sometimes guys get puffed up. To me, that's what that is. So, if you hear a guy say we had a normal conversation and it wasn't nothing, they probably did have a normal conversation. But when you see a guy emphatically say that we talk as grown men, that means we got to it. We got to it, and I'm not offended and he's not offended, but I held my ground. That's the way that I interpret that, because when I say we're gonna have a grown man conversation with somebody, that means we probably one step from taking it there and getting to the business. So, but that's neither here nor there, and we'll find out everything about that. Nobody believed in him anymore. Nobody trusted him. He didn't trust anybody else, and he couldn't get out of his own way. And people got tired. Brady Quinn and these people coming out saying that local media was after Urban Meyer. Let me explain how this works. If this team is successful, every media member, they thrive. And we're all going to thrive now. We're going to thrive from controversy. I told you when this came up that this would, when they hired him, it would be either lead to greatness or to be a great disaster. And it's been a great disaster. But see, this is short-lived. This is the fruit that allows people in the media to advance their careers. What allows people in the media to advance is sustained success and constantly covering a winner. Controversy goes away. And then we got to start all over again. No one here. I don't know one person in this local media. I knew some people that thought it wasn't going to work, but I don't know one person here that had an agenda that could really benefit from this going down this way. And anybody that says that is irresponsible. I want to tell you in segment 3 why I believe that Shad Khan has to take some responsibility for this. And I know, folks probably thought this was going to be the hype. This is going to be the hype podcast. Nah, it's not that. It's somber. It's somber because Jacksonville is right back at square one. They're right back at square one trying to figure it out again. But we're going to get it figured out. And I'll tell you how we'll do it in just a second here on Locked On Jaguars. I'll tell you what, Urban Meyer ain't the only problem you can have sometimes. It's like a thorn in your side. You ever had on a bad sock and you didn't know it until after you had it on for a few hours that stitch is a little bit off because, I don't know, you either need to get some new socks or you need to try somewhere else where you're buying them. What about that undershirt that doesn't quite fit right up underneath your dress shirt? Well, guess what? Stance can fix all of that for you. I've been hearing a lot about their apparel lately, especially because they launched a new line of active apparel. Plus, it's holiday gifting time, and Stance is the coolest gift you can give. Share how incredibly comfortable and well made their socks are with your friends and family through gifting them. And plus, you can buy some of them for yourself. Let me tell you what happened. In 2009, Stance Apparel created and they were founded. And what they represent is a radical invention of socks, underwear, and active apparel. They've even hooked up with some of pop culture's hottest collaborators for the ultimate style and self-expression. So now you can not only feel good with their product, but you can look good too. Stance believe that the perfect fit matters more than fitting in, that those who feel good do good. So go see for yourself, register for an account at stance.com and get 15% off of your first purchase. Use the promo code Locked On at checkout to apply. Enjoy the color and comfort of life less ordinary with Stance. Let me hit you off with Bet Online, man. Bet Online has you covered for all your season props, odds, and lines more than ever before as football season continues the march to the playoffs. Now, if you took a bet that Urban Meyer wasn't going to last the whole season, you probably got paid. Bet Online, I guarantee you they had that prop for you. I think I even mentioned it. But BetOnline remains your number one spot for all the sports action this season. Head to the new updated desktop or mobile website to sign up today and receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Just use promo code Locked On to receive your bonus. From basketball to football, boxing, UFC to your favorite Vegas casino games, don't wait to take advantage of all the amazing offers available for the 2021 season. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to bet all of your favorite sports. BetOnline is where the game starts. And hopefully your day starts here on Locked On Jaguars, where you make us your first listen. We are your team every day with breaking news, the daily podcast that is free on all platforms. That's right, free on all platforms, and we give it to you fresh and off the dome. Urban Meyer has been fired as the head coach of the Jacksonville Jaguars. He gone. He gone. Just as simple as say he is gone. Shad Khan is not without blame in this situation, and it is not because of the hire itself. I understood the hire at the time. There were those who were skeptical. I wasn't. Whatever I felt about Urban Meyer, I thought that it would some of that anxiety that I had would go away because he didn't have to worry about 85, kids / young adults every single day, maybe getting in trouble on a college campus. Yeah, built-in security systems with the NFLPA as well as the commissioner's office. So all he had to do was coach his team and not worry about a bunch of grown millionaires. But he spent most of his time worrying about and micromanaging a bunch of grown millionaires. And it's the key reason why, other than the fact that some people just think he's an awful person, it's the reason why he's not the coach here in Jacksonville anymore. Let me talk about Shad Khan. Shad said in his statement when he released that this is weeks of discussions. Outside of the incident, the alleged incident between James Robinson and Marvin Jones, none of this stuff is a week or two old. This stuff happened back in August when Josh Lambo's attorney or agent reached out to Team Legal basically to discuss what happened, and they basically denied it. Everything that has gone on has been denied by Urban Meyer. He couldn't deny Doyle, the strength and conditioning coach, the embattled strength and conditioning coach who got fired from Iowa amid controversy. But he just said, you know what? He said that Doyle came in and told him, I don't want to be a distraction. That answer wasn't good enough. He should have said, I made a mistake. You see what I'm talking about the accountability part of it? He just doesn't have it. He don't have it in his DNA. And in the NFL, the one thing you got to do with NFL people is keep it a buck. And I ain't just talking about just the media. I'm talking about your team. I'm talking about those millionaires in that locker room, those guys with guaranteed contracts. You got to keep it a buck. And that means keeping it 100. What the NFL is all about is honesty, communication, and the ability to lead and make people run through uh, a brick wall. Now, I'm not, when I say honesty, I know people lie in the NFL, but what I'm talking about in terms of honesty is your players. Between the player and coach, y'all got to have a real relationship, or these dudes they'll shut you down and they'll shut you off. It was telling yesterday that Trevor Lawrence, who's been the most mature person in this organization, came out and said the drama needs to stop. Paraphrasing. There's he did an interview with Mike DeRocco of ESPN. He says basically the losing is hard, but before you can start winning, you can't have drama. You can't be in the news every day because of drama. And I thought that was a very telling comment by a young man who shouldn't even be having these conversations, to be honest with you. And maybe Shad heard it too, because Trevor is the future of this franchise. Maybe he heard it too. And maybe now with this stuff going public with Lambo, it was just too much to bear. They have to stop reacting. It's never too late to fix something, but they have to stop reacting. And by they, I mean management, upper management. Stop reacting to PR and to stuff getting out in the media. Stuff that you already know about, since you also said recently that you don't live in a vacuum. You understand. And then in your last statement, when you fired Urban Meyer, Shad, you said over a period of weeks, the Jaguars they got to learn to get in front of stuff. They got to learn to surprise us and say, we made a decision. Now then go back and tell us what happened. Instead of letting all of this stuff come out and get and blow up in your face and then reacting. Like I said, it's never too late. It's never too late to fix stuff. But as long as you're coming from behind and always reacting to everything, without everyone knowing, that means it's something functionally going wrong with your team and you do nothing about it until it gets out in the open. That has to stop. You got to be ahead of it. At some point, you got to be in front of it and say, nope, we're nipping this in the bud. By the time y'all hear about it, the action has already been taken. We need to get to the point where we ask, why did he do this? Or why did Shad do this? Or why did Shad fire him? And then we find out, we're like, oh, okay, I get it. But no, we're always wondering, I wonder if he's going to fire him now. I wonder what Shad's going to do. That means you're not ahead of it. You got to be a thermometer and a thermostat. You got to regulate the temperature. And then when you see something's wrong, you got to check the temperature and then do something about it. He's gone. Urban Meyer is no longer the coach of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Where do they go from here? Maybe name an interim coach. And there were rumors that Charlie Strong is going to be that guy, and we'll see. Charlie's Urban's buddy. It'll also be interesting to see if, even if they don't win games, they play with more life down the stretch. Now that a guy that people believe is a tyrant is out of the building. And what does it mean for the future? Is this an audition for Charlie Strong? I don't necessarily think so, because I think the sample size is too small. I think they go on a coaching search again and they hire someone who's good with quarterbacks, who knows how to build a staff, and who has a level and an even hand about himself, And right now, the first name that comes to mind is Jim Caldwell. He's the first name that comes to mind. I want no more big splashes, no more winning press conferences. You just want to get somebody in here that can that can lead and guide Trevor Lawrence and the rest of this franchise and make good, sound decisions. Outside of Trevor Lawrence, last year's draft was also a waste. Not that the players won't somehow, not that the players are waste themselves, but I mean in terms of team fit and player development and where they are on the depth chart and how they've been brought in. All of that stuff that Urban was emphasizing, all of that swag, all of that, this, that, and the third, all the things he's done since he's been here. We're going to kick that stuff out of the window now. All of these sayings, all of that own it, all of that BS, and saying stuff and talking a certain way and not meaning it. It's gone. It's meaningless. All of that stuff, none of that means anything anymore. The draft picks, the strength and conditioning program, and all of these things and these promises that he made. Urban Meyer, at the end of the day, was a failure. Urban Meyer, at the end of the day, did what a lot of people do, and a lot of people do in certain situations, especially bullies. That when you realize actually how tough something is, or how tough something actually is, you act it out. You started wilding out and turning tables over, and when you knew you weren't good enough, you acted tough, and you tried to bully people, and you said you do what I told you because I'm the boss. Just last week he said if there's leaks, someone will be unemployed right away. Turns out the first person to be unemployed was him. Bullies don't work in the NFL. And I don't think anybody in college is going to touch him after this either. It just doesn't work. You actually have to do the work. You actually have to roll your sleeves up, and you actually have to work hard every day and try to outdo people in the NFL. And he just wasn't up to it. He who barks the loudest that everyone else sucks and they're losers is a loser himself. I said it the other day, and I'll stand by it now. If there's a lesson to be learned by Shad Khan in this, get in front of this stuff. If you say you know about it, or if you don't know about it, man, just admit that you weren't paying attention to it. And you're gonna get indicted for that too. But still, if you do know about it, you got to get in front of it. Don't let this stuff, don't let the media do your work for you. The Jaguar fans deserve it. At this point, it's a chance for this organization to move forward. That's why, it's probably a good day that you come on here and you get all hyped and Urban is going to get fired. Urban's been fired. Oh my God. This ain't shock jock time, because Locked On Jaguars, this is therapy for the fans. This ain't I told you so. This ain't time to peacock and all of that stuff. But what it is just, it's like, man, y'all have been through a lot. You've been through a lot. Recording this at 4:30 in the morning. This team is under Urban has been bad for insomnia, because you already know something's going to happen the next day. I told somebody last night what Urban Meyer has been like is like one of my sons. I have a son who when he was in school, was kind of mischievous. Not bad. He's just a good kid, but just too funny for his own good. He's like a little Mike Epps. And every time my phone rang in the middle of the day and it went Duval County Schools, I knew who it was. I knew what it was for. I just answer and say, what did he do? And the person on the other end, 9 times out of 10, was laughing, but they say, we can't let him get away with that one. I said, yep, I'll be there. And I show up and he's sitting there with that little chicken crap grin on his face until he realized it wasn't funny no more. When I told him I was missing money and people like him, but it was just time to go. Only this is people weren't laughing. Folks weren't laughing at this. But every single time my phone started chirping or rattling in the middle of the night and I wake up, it always had something to do with a 56-year-old man that did not know how to conduct himself. Urban was the stain on this Jaguars organization. And he's only been here, what, since February? January, February? Not even a full calendar year. Dude made it through 13 games, 2-11. And he replaced anybody who you had as the worst Jaguar ever. That's him. He's done it. Urban Meyer is now the biggest head on the Mount Rushmore of disliked figures ever associated with the Jacksonville Jaguars organization. And he managed to do that in 13 games. But now he gone. Shad, let's get down to business and get this thing right and give the fans what they deserve. What you also deserve is a chance to win you some money with knowledge. And the way that you get that is listening to the Locked On Bets podcast, hosted by your boy Q with his guest Lee Sterling, who's an analyst who gives you stuff you can't get anywhere. They do it better than anybody in the business. So you need to make sure you tap in, follow, like, subscribe to the Locked On Bets podcast, wherever you get podcasts. He gone, Jacksonville. He is gone. Urban Meyer has been fired. We're all tired. We all desired for this situation to improve. And now we can get down to the business of moving forward. But he is no longer the coach of your beloved Jacksonville Jaguars. And I think, for one, that you are all better for it. I'm going to sign off, man, but until the next time, we'll have the crossover edition tomorrow with Cody Davis from Locked On Texans. Salute to y'all, Jacksonville. Good night. Good morning. Hello. Take care. Y'all take care of each other. He gone.